Let's start. The business of life and the life of a business. Let's see. So, in your life, imagine, just picture if in your mind, if every financial aspect of your life was recorded, every time you spent money and every time you received money. Imagine you writing that down. Imagine you recording it every day in and day out. And I mean every single little thing. The $2 you give to the homeless man, every time you spend money on your hair, every time you spend money on food, every time you give $1 to your little brother, every time you spend money to repair your phone, every time you spend money on pens and pencils, the list goes on. Every little detail in your life is being recorded. Imagine that. What do you think that will be like? What do you think that will reflect about you? Revealing your spending habits. And that is exactly what accounting is. Accounting is a snitch. He's a snitch. He reveals the truth, the bad, good, and the ugly. He reveals everything a business has done, that everything a business has ever done financially. Every time they spent money, every time they received money. And not only the times they did it, but what they spent it on, how they spent it, how long did it take to spend. All these things are recorded in accounts. How much, so that by the end of the year, you'll be able to see throughout the entire year how much money you spent, how much money you received, what you spent your money on. All those things you'll be able to see, and you'll be able to track your spending habits. So accounting is the tracking of a business spending habits. And what the financial statements do is that they basically are revealing different aspects of the business in different ways. So when you do your T accounts, and what a T account is basically how accounting is basically recorded. And you put those in your journals, but we'll get into that next week. But what I really want to focus on right now is talking about what accounting is about, why accounting is needed, why accounting is necessary. You could imagine writing down everything that you've ever done financially in life. Don't you think you'll make some changes? Let me know. Don't you think that you would make some changes to your spending habits? Wouldn't it reveal to you, maybe you spend too much money on this, maybe you spend too little money on this, all these things? What do you think?
Um, Personally, I don't think I spend that much money.
But let's say
But
you, oh, go ahead.
if I was to, if I was to, then yeah, I would cut back and make sure I try everything to save up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Right. So imagine a business now. So in the business of life, what is your greatest asset? Who do you think your greatest asset is in the business of life?
can you repeat the question?
What do you think? What do you think is your greatest asset in the business of life? Do you know what an asset is? Because you told me you did introduction to accounts.
Yes, I know what asset is
So what?
valuable to a person
Right.
or
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I think the greatest asset is money, because if money is valuable.
Really? Okay. Let's see. In the business of life, what is your greatest asset? You are your greatest asset. Your body, your mind, your imagination, your creativity, your education, your skills all bring great value to this business of life. Therefore, wouldn't you take care of this asset? Keep track of its health. Health is wealth, right? So a business has to stay healthy. And a way that a business stays healthy is by keeping track of the health. So, in the case of a business, money is wealth, but in the case of the business of life, you is the health. Without health, you don't really have anything. You stuck in a bed all day in the hospital. So, in the business of life, you are your greatest asset. Money is nothing if there's no one good there to manage it properly. Money can actually become worthless depending on who holds it. So in a business, what accounting does is that it is in the recording of financial transactions, it basically shows you how well have you been taking care of your business. How well have you been spending money? How well have you been tracking? How well have not tracking? How long have you? How well have you been spending it? Are you spending your money wisely, or you're spending your money foolishly? Are you taking on investments? Are you taking on loans that you can't handle? Are you buying in the case of the business of life, let's say you only make, oh, this is a good one. Let's say you're probably under 18, right? You're under 18. So the only money you'll probably get is either if you had a summer job or from your parents' gifts. Let's say you get $600, right? And before you spend it on this expensive phone, you don't save any money, you don't track the money, you just spend. You will invest in nothing, you will save it for the a rainy day, or the next time you say next time you get money, you saving and saving, you just spending it. And you're not even strategically spending it. You're just spending it on whatever you want: food, makeup, hair, all these things you're spending it on. A business can't afford to do that. But some sole proprietors, some partnerships, some companies, they do. Especially mostly sole proprietors and partnerships, they take on more than they can handle. And what accounting does is not only does it reveal that to them at the end of the year or the end of the period, they now have the financial information through accounting to change it. You understand? Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay. So let's say with that same $600 that your grandmother would give you or whatever, how you would probably manage it with that would be you keep track of it. You are wise in your spending habits. Maybe you open a bank account to get some interest. Maybe you save up on your own. Maybe you decide to invest like 200 of it in stock. Whatever you want to do, right? You have to spend that money wisely. But the best way to know for sure that you are, excuse me, to know for sure that you're spending your money wisely is accounting. Let's continue. And I'm going through this because it's important that you understand why accounting is important. In an average human life, where is revenue earned or received? Let me know. Tell me. When is an average person, sorry, an average person gonna either receive money or earn it?
Repeat the question one more time.
In an average human life, where is revenue earned or received?
Like, earn or receive, like in trading, and when you earn money, and when you earn or receive money when you're trading, or like,
That's one way. Yeah.
um,
Stock market.
yeah, um,
A S
like
word.
over here,
S word ending in way.
um, as word in a way,
What does your parents earn?
a salary,
And what is another way you could get money? Continue what you were saying. I shouldn't have
like
interrupted you.
a job,
Which is what your
a job,
salary.
right? You asking how much is your salary?
No, 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 no. I was
Oh,
saying.
okay, right.
No, I was saying. There's one other thing for sure. So we said trading on the market. We said salary,
Mm-hmm.
which is trading the market being investments and stocks and stuff like that, and also IQ options. But what else? There's another one that mostly persons your age will get.
Uh, allowance.
Yes, an allowance, or in an adult's case, a gift. So That is where you usually pull your money from. You either investing, you're getting money from, you're trading work time for money, you are getting it gifted at Christmas time or your birthday, or like a child, you're getting every month or every 2 weeks or whatever, you are getting allowance. So that's where your money is coming from. That's how you're getting money. What are the most common things people spend their money on?
Um, everyday things, groceries, um, hair products, face products, um, shoes, clothing, and yeah, other stuff. That's the main things.
You're what you said is true, and but you mainly talked about more of what people buy for themselves, like products, food to eat to survive. But another thing human that people I keep saying human people spend money on, and they have to spend money on gas, for example. They have to spend money on paying off the mortgage every month, and those will be considered liabilities. Now, what you would have spoken about just now, food products, in the business of life, in the context of the business of life, a car, anything like that, that would be considered an asset. Because why? It's benefiting you in your everyday life. This is the business of life. In your everyday life, you need food. You need food. You need to groom yourself, deodorant, all those things. Transportation, car, either bus fare or a car, whatever it may be. But a liability to you is if you owe, and your life is, remember the guys are talking about everyday life, is if you owe your friend money. If you didn't pay off the subscription to Netflix, and now you owe Netflix. A liability would be when you are taxes are due and you ain't pay them yet. Those are long term. Well, I like to call them long term expenses, because that's expenses, because that's really what liability is. Most of the time, it's a long term expense. That's an expense that you pay in the long run. So, what are the most common expenses that people incur? And expenses are more in the short term, things you pay on more on a monthly basis, a daily basis. So, what would be a expense, a common expense that people incur?
Common expense, like as in like, um, if you're in debt.
If they're in debt, that would be a liability, because that's a debt is long term. You pay that off for God knows how long. When a couple or people pay off a mortgage, that would be a debt for sure. So a debt is usually always a
A liability.
liability because it's long term, and most liabilities are long term. Expenses are the short term, because remember, don't forget that expenses are under liability. You don't see expenses in the accounting equation. Capital equals assets plus liabilities. Expenses is under the liability category, but expenses is the kind of like the, let me put it this way: liabilities are the long term expenses, and expenses are the short term liabilities. You understand?
So like the common expenses would be like um deposits, cost of repairs, insurance fees. Like if you're repairing your car,
Yes, that would be an
insurance
expense.
fees.
Yes, insurance monthly. Yeah, that would be definitely expense. Insurance expense, repair expense, and that would be like maintenance of your car. Another one would be tax expense. That if you pay it on time, that is tax expense. Another one would be, give me some more. Give me some more. You're going well. You're going well.
Like
So okay, you know what? Give me an expense that you think you incur with something you have. Your phone, your laptop, anything. What do you think an expense that you incur, or your parents will pay for?
the phone bill,
Yes, your phone bill. If
the
your
um the thing.
what thing?
I mean the money for calls and stuff.
The money for calls. Yeah,
Data.
data. Your phone, and more. an expense that you would incur also is like the phone bill, and let's say your phone dropped. Let's say your phone stops working. That's a huge expense. First of all, it's not even expected, one. And two, that's usually not long term. Usually you pay that immediately. I think to fix a screen sometimes could go as high as $250. That's a huge expense on your business of life, because it's almost like um, a lawsuit that a real business goes through. That's a huge. If they lose that lawsuit and they have to pay, let's say, recompense, what's the word I'm looking for? And they have to pay a customer that they treat by like $2,000 or something like that. That's a huge expense. That would be recorded as an expense, because first of all, it was not expected, and two, it wouldn't be a liability because it's not long term. You pay out that $2,000 if you can. It only becomes a liability really if you paying it over a course of time. But again, don't get confused. Expenses are under liabilities, but for now we're just talking about liabilities of the long-term expenses and expenses of the short-term liabilities. So yeah, so anything to do with maintenance, maintaining a house. If you got fix, you live in a house, you have to pay the electrical bill. You have to, and let's say the electricity stops working, you have to pay an electrician to come and fix it. That will go under house maintenance, and in a real business, that will go under their buildings maintenance, their office maintenance. That's an expense. So yeah, you understand? Hello?
Yes, please. I understand.
All right, good. All right. All right, so those are the answers that I would have given. I would have said salary, and we would have discussed this just now. Salaries, the gifts and allowances, what people would get their money from, what they spend on, groceries, grooming, entertainment, loans due, subscriptions like Netflix, insurance due, taxes due, house expenses, gifts, and the expenses will be like tax expense, rent expense, insurance expense, gas expense, everything we would have just discussed. But now we're going to break that down into business terms, and we're going to say, what are the 5 main accounts? In accounting, there are different types of accounts. You have the assets accounts, expenses, liabilities, capital / or equity, and a revenue. And you probably would have heard this before. Assets are things that benefit your business. And in the business of life, what do you think will be an asset to you? Every day, something you use. Supposed to be an asset to you. Something you use all the time in your everyday life.
Phone.
Your phone is a definite asset to you.
Your phone, your computer.
Yep.
Even does it have to be like, alright, your phone, computer, your shower, your house,
Yes.
your car, your clothes, those are assets
All
to you
of
because you
that
have
beautiful.
to use
All
them
of
every
that.
day.
All of those are assets to you. But the funny thing about assets, I'm really just gonna nibble at this right now, is that assets depreciate. Do you know what that means?
That they lose value.
That they lose value. Amen. So you will find that a lot of your expenses, especially, branch down from your assets. And what do I mean by that? Your assets.
Repeat.
Pardon?
Repeat what you just said.
I would say that you will find that your assets, your expenses, come from your assets. A lot of them. So when you have a house.
Right.
Pardon?
I said right.
So, for example, you have a house, right? And that house. No, let me make it easier. You have an apartment. That apartment is an asset to you, but you got to pay rent. And rent is an expense. So a lot of your expenses is maintenance and the depreciation of your assets. So you will find in accounting, and not even just accounting, just business in general, that once you have an asset, more than likely you're going to have a liability or an expense to go along with it. If you have an expense, you got an asset to go along with it. So you very rarely are you going to buy an asset and it does not expense you in some way. Your car, you got to pay gas expense. Your phone, you got to pay the phone bill. Your All these things you have to pay. But in the business of life, also there are other things that now another expense is depreciation. Now you have hair products. Let me tell you though, honey. As soon as you buy that comb, as soon as you buy that brush, it loses its value. You know how the brush bristles look terrible, the comb teeth coming out. You combing your hair with a comb that got like 3 or 4 teeth and it come with 5. Your phone depreciates. The next you have an iPhone 12, the iPhone 13 coming out next year. So the price that an iPhone 12 sold at in 2019 is not going to be the same in 2020 when the iPhone 13 comes out. Because the iPhone 12 over that year has lost its value. So even in things like your hair, where you don't have to necessarily pay an expense, there's still an expense. What I like to call an abstract expense, which is your depreciation. And the reason I call it an abstract expense is because you're not directly paying someone for it. You are recording it because let's say you throw it away or you sell it, you have to take that into consideration. You can't buy let's say you like iPhone. Let's say you have an iPhone and you had an iPhone 12. That was a big iPhone. And that came out in 2020 and it cost $2,000, right? You can't come in 2030 and sell the same iPhone 12 for $2,000. People look at you crazy. Because why? You have lost. It depreciated and it lost its value.
Exactly.
Exactly. So with every asset, usually there's some expense, whether that be a real expense like rent and bills and tax and stuff like that, or it's depreciation. Almost all assets depreciate, and that's almost all, right? Almost all of them. But there are different types of assets as well. But we'll get into that more next time. Liabilities, again. Liabilities also stem down from your assets as well. As I told you, that expenses is under the category of liabilities. So liabilities is more, as I said before, long term. So let's say you owe a friend in the business of life, you owe a friend a lot of money. You owe your friend $1,000. That's a liability. That's not an expense. Why? Unless you pay off all in cash, right? And even then, all that time why it's a liability? Because all the time you spent owing her. Let's say you in 2015, your friend loan you $1,000 and tell you, well, I want this back, right? And you don't pay her till 2 years later. Okay, now I got the money, $1,000. You would have been owing her all that time. All that time you would have been owing her money. That's a liability because it's long term. You have to keep that. Now when you're recording, think about it, when you're recording your accounts now, you have to keep that liability in your mind that, oh my gosh, I have to save up, let's say $20 a month or $50 a month, so they could, for the end of the year or end of 2 years, I could give back this woman $1,000. And usually in the business, not in the life of a business, because remember we were saying the business of life and comparing it to the life of a business, you have to pay interest on that. And do you know what interest is, or hire purchase? Do you know what that is?
Value.
Pardon?
The added value.
Yes, the
Right.
added value. Because you can't pay me right away, so I'm gonna give you a little break. You could pay me $20 a month, but you gotta pay me an extra $2. You gotta pay me $22 a month, so that at the end of the 2 years, instead of me getting $1,000, I already get 1,200. That math is not right, but I just calling numbers. But you understand what I'm saying, right? So in the real world, in the real business life of a business, when you have owe somebody something, or you get a loan. Think about a loan from a bank. Whenever you pay off the month, you're paying at the end of the day, at the end of 2 years, you owe that bank. You're paying sometimes 20% more than you were paying before. Than you would have had to pay if you pay them right away. You give me $1,000 today, next week I give it back to you, or next month I give it back to you. You understand? Hello? You understand? So we understand what an asset is, we understand what expenses, liabilities, capital. Now people get confused about capital because people were like, well, capital is technically money, so isn't it an asset? Isn't it an asset? Yes, capital technically is an asset, but so is cash. So you have to resolve the situation. The rule in accounting, with every debit, there's a credit, and that's going into T accounts. So for every money you have, if you spent money, you have to have an account for what you spent your money on. So let's say you bought a hairbrush, and that hairbrush costs $5. You would credit the cash account. Why? Because it's taking money from you. But you would debit the brush account, and yes, the brush has its own account. So for every debit, there's a credit. For everything you spend money on, for every time you spend money, you got to put what you spent money on. Every time you take money, you got to say where you took it from. And we're going to go more into detail about this next time. But I just giving you a brief on it. This is just a briefing, little crash course, if you could say. So and that's what another thing I want to discuss. Accounting is all about balance. And that word gonna I don't want to say gonna haunt you, but that word is gonna be heard over and over. It has to make sense. It has to balance. Capital equals assets plus liabilities. Assets equals capital plus liabilities. Assets equals capital plus liabilities. If assets don't equals capital plus liabilities, something is wrong. You have made an error. So accounting is all A-double-L, all about balance. So what is capital? Capital is, you know what? I have something for y'all in that slide. But basically capital is any financial thing or anything that has financial value that you use to invest into a business. And now in the business of life, you take money and you can invest it in yourself. You can invest it in going to the gym. You can invest it in, because remember your body is one of your greatest asset. If you're not healthy, that's it. So you take your capital, and your capital will be what? That salary, that allowance, that gift will be considered capital, because then you take that money and investing it into you could say you're investing it in yourself. You're taking care of yourself, buying good food, you are buying good food, you are exercising, paying a little gym fee, you're taking that capital, that allowance, that salary, and you're taking it and you're investing it into yourself so that you acquire more skills, so that you look better and become better, so you can get a better job and earn more money. And with the business, it's similar. They take money, capital, they invest it into an idea and a business, and this is how businesses are birthed. You have an idea and you have money, bring them together, you have a business. You take that money and invest it into your idea. Let's say you want to sell a unique phone. You take that capital, you invest in the phone, create the phone, you sell it, you make money. You sell it at a profit, you make money. You take your allowance, your salary, you invest it into yourself, you get more skills, you get a better job, you get more money. You see the correlation, you see the connection?
Yes, please.
Good. So this is how you have to understand capital. And often people don't, the reason I say this and you need to understand, because when we go to T accounts and we go more in depth in T accounts, capital is always credited. But you're like, but Shimona, you got money. You isn't that an asset? Isn't something that you should debit because you're receiving money? No. Because with every debit, there's a credit. So if you get cash, don't you debit the cash account? So if you debit the cash account, you have to credit the capital account. Capital is always credited. And it's credited so that the cash, so you know where the cash came from. You understand? And you'll understand more when we do T accounts next week, and you get to see it and all those things. And you get to see why it makes sense. But I need you to understand a little bit now that capital Yes, technically it's money. It is an asset to you in a way, because without the capital, the business can't start. But it's like a special asset. It's like, oh, you know what? First, like the first thing is always, how the people say that the first of everything is special. Jesus is like the first everything. He's the first man to walk on this earth and not sin. All these things, right? So he was the first, and the first, got a little special treatment. So you could say that the capital is the first ever asset you have, and therefore it's treated a little special. You know what I mean? It's capital and cash. It's capital and cash slash blank. It's treated a little special. That is the first asset you have, because when you don't even whenever you discuss capital in a business, they don't even discuss it as cash. You just discuss it as capital, because capital is not only cash. Capital, if you start, for example, a hair business, and before the business you had, you already had a hair dryer, you had a salon already, and all these things. Before you invest any money, that was given. You had that already from the get go. So you had the hair dryer, and you had you using your little get a little salon or whatever. You weren't investing the money from the business yet for the salon. Let's say it was given to you to maintain or something like that. You will record that salon, apartment, building, whatever, as part of your capital, because you are using that space that you probably was passed down to you from your grandmother or whatever, that was passed down to you, to now invest in, to now start your business. So if that apartment was worth $5,000, that will go into capital. So your capital is more than just money. It's also value. Often when people talk about net worth, it's not how much money someone has in their bank account. Look around your room. Let's say you're in a room. Look at every single thing you have. You got a phone, you have a bed, if you have a lamp, if you got tiles on the floor, you got molding, you got paint, you got curtains, you got sheet, you got the closet with the wood, the books that you own, your pens, your pencils, if you're on a second floor, the kitchen, everything that counts as all that counts as your assets. So don't think that when people talk about this person's net worth is $600 million, that they actually got $600 million in their bank account. It is that their assets plus their money plus the value of their business and all that is what makes up their net worth. So think about if you were to look around your room and add up everything you own that is in your room right now, even if you're just watching the video on YouTube, look at everything in your room and think to yourself, how much did all these things cost? And you were to take these things now, and you were to make a business out of it. That's your capital. You were to rent out your bedroom. Let's say you wanted to rent out your bedroom for revenue. How much will you rent it out for based on the value? You gotta look at the bed, you gotta look at the quality of the walls, the tiles, everything you gotta look at. But this bedroom was passed down to you. It's yours. You don't have to pay the money for it. So that would be the worth, everything, the worth of this bedroom and the things that are in it will be considered capital. Because you take it now, you may upgrade it a little bit. You may make it look a little nicer through different wall painting and stuff like that. So let's say you will put in your capital account all that this is worth. Let's say it's worth $6,000. Your bedroom alone, $6,000. All the things are in it that you're going to let the person who comes to rent it. Then you invest actual physical money, $2,000, to make it look good. Now it's $8,000 worth. And you now making revenue from someone paying, I don't know, $1,000 a month or whatever of what a month to rent it out. Do you understand? Or am I crazy?
No, it's okay.
Alright, so we're talking revenue now. Now revenue will be that rent that you receive from that person renting out your bedroom. We actually call that rent revenue. When you renting out your bedroom, you're saying, I want X amount of money for you to lie down on this bed, for you to turn on a lamp, for you to walk on these nice tiles, for you to use this beautiful desk, for you to be able to look at the nice walls and have nice curtains and have a nice shower. You're paying for all of that. So the person now is going to give you $1,000 a month, right? And let's say you only invested $2,000 in it, and then as we said before, you only invested $2,000 in it to make it look real nice and grand and royalty, and it was worth 6,000 as we said before, $6,000. It was passed down to you and you fixed it up for the 2,000. You only invested $2,000. So let's say they pay you $1,000 a month and they stay there for 6 months. That's $6,000. You would have made a $4,000 profit, because technically, even though you record the capital, is what it's worth, right? You didn't have to pay for it. So it's almost like you invested in it already. You would have made technically you would have made $4,000 profit from your coming from your pocket. You understand? That's what revenue is. Revenue account, a very popular one, the most used one is sales. When you make a product now, and you selling this new eyeshadow, right? You take your capital, you invest in assets, you invest in people to make this eyeshadow. You sell it. The money you get from sales is your revenue. There we go. Now, this is what we're going to do. I think this is the last thing we're going to do. Now, I want you to help me. Remember, we said we have 5 types of accounts: assets, liabilities, expenses, equity/capital, and revenue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What category do you think these things will fall under? And I want you to tell me, what do you think these would fall under? And you're just going to tell me. I have them skewed here, but I just want to tell me what you think they are made out of. Oh, shoot. What do you think? So tell me. I pointed at the allowance and salary, and then we're going to go back. What account do you think that is? What type of account do you think that is?
That is your income, your revenue.
That's your income. Correct. That is your income. But what of the five accounts would it be? A capital, revenue, asset, whatever.
Revenue.
Why you say revenue?
Because you could take that money and invest it in something else. The money you earn, you could take and invest it in something else.
Yes. Technically, you're right. It is revenue, but I classified it as capital. Why? Because this is the first money you get at the beginning of the month. Allowance, salary, gift. Well, the gift, not the gift one, but the allowance and the salary, that's something you get at the
I
end.
say capital.
So it will be capital, right? It technically, you still, as we said, you're still receiving money, but it's the first of the money you usually get. So you consider it capital, and you take that capital and you have what? What is this? A phone. What is this now? What is this? Asset, liabilities, expense, capital, revenue. What is it? It's an asset. Correct. Now, gas for the car. What is this? Liability? Is it an asset? Capital? Whatever. What is it? Gas for the car.
Expense.
Yes, it is an expense.
Right.
It's an expense. You're correct. Or your mom for breaking her mug.
Liability.
Yes, and why do you say liability?
Because since you're a child and you're a child, you're not gonna get money like that to pay for
Right.
it straight away. So yeah.
You're gonna owe her over a period of time. Excellent. And last but not least, what is this? You sold a bracelet to a friend. Took that little money you got and you buy a little beads and you sold the bracelet. What is that? Sold a little bracelet. Pardon?
Capital?
This is your capital.
Oh, revenue.
Yes, because it's a sale. You made money from something. Yes, it's your revenue. You did great. That's exactly what it is. And that is the end of the class. The business of life and the life of a business. And we're going to more go in depth later on next week with the accounts and doing some questions, some real questions with the business of life and the life of a business. And we're going to use everyday things to do some T accounts. And I think that's really going to help you understand the lifeblood, the DNA of a business. It's so important in accounts that you understand that. Not all this is on the CSET syllabus. You're not going to have to know all these things, but it's important that you understand why accounting is important, and that accounting is and business is a everything, everyday thing. Keeping track of your money. Money is a very big part of your life. It sometimes can even define your life, the very livelihood. So think about when you go home and you click off this video or you go to this class. Think about when the little money you get, how can I use accounting, my little personal accounts, to keep track of my money and be better at managing your money? Because that's exactly what the aim of accounts is. The goal of accounts is to bring balance to a business and to make sure that so that the business owners can know, right, how well are we spending this money, or is it worth it? Are we making a profit? It helps them make decisions. How much should we invest in this? How much money we should invest in that? It's very, very, very important. So thank you for coming to my class. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Bye.